All right, Nigerians, Edo inhabitants, and Edo indigents, you're welcome to the podcast for Matters Arising here in Edo State. And this podcast is sponsored by the Movement for a Peaceful Edo. And our actions are geared towards fostering activities that will anchor peace in our dear state. And stakeholders and inhabitants likewise are all encouraged to embrace activities that will help to make this a reality. A state that is peaceful is a state that we all need to exist in, and whatever happens that threatens the peace of Edo State, it threatens our individual lives. I understand that humanity is more important than any discussion. So I want to introduce our guest today, and let him do the introduction by himself. Yeah.
All right. From the way you were trying to introduce, I just like to be addressed as Utsi, and that's my name. So I think I like that very quite short. Not a lot of prefix to my names and all of them. So I don't like suffix and all of them. So I just prefer Utsi, and that's my name. Thank you. And thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you for staying with this our guest, because I know you're going to extract enough value from him on this discussion. So I want to talk about the recent happenings that we have recorded in the political space, specifically on the legislative platter. Now, recently, just last month here in February, we witnessed where the legislative arm of government in Nigeria amended the Electoral Act, and there were few clauses that were amended. So one of those were the specific one where they said the INEC now have the liberty to adjust electionary dates. So instead of 365 days notice for an election, they've shortened it now to 300 days. Then the specific part that we're going to address in this discussion today is the fact that electronic transmission of results, which was already supposed to be the norm in our politics moving forward, it is now restructured in a way that if you are in areas where network is kind of faulty or bad, you can now fall back to the Form EC8A to take manual input of data. And we have seen this to be the basics for electionary fraud in time past. This is what we want to comment on. We know that this has already been passed into law, and the amendment has already been effected, but there is still need for us to have a conversation around it so that we can have electorates informed enough so they can know how to mount their guard on election day for those who so have a party to defend or a candidate to defend. So we would have Utsi Ian, as he has said, we should call him. But we're looking at the general concept of what election is supposed to be. Election, we understand it is to bring in new personnel into office while old ones leave. But is it more than that, or it is just that?
So I think in a democratic government, which Nigeria seems to practice, election is a process to hire and fire. You as electorate, that's the only time you have the power to decide who takes next. So, every 4 years, Nigeria gather to elect new leaders. So it's an opportunity for us to come into a consensus that we are believing our rights as citizens into somebody we trust, through his visions and through his ideas, some of them that he has sold to us. And then we are confident now that we are reposing our trust in him to deliver all of what he has said with our own resources as people. So that's what, so at every point in time, we need people that will govern us, direct us. So somebody must be there who governs us. So elections to us, to every democratic society, is an opportunity to hire and fire. So we decide that, this is the vision you've had for us. These are the plans you have. So we are mandating you. We are giving you our mandate. Try our votes to elect you to lead us and then drive this vision. So we always, for that, it's like a performance review. So every 4 years, you come back to review your performance. In Nigeria, that runs it 2 times for the elective positions, the executive level positions. Not like the representative arm that people run for 20 years and some of them over 20 years and still in office and all of them. So now for the executive aspect, so you just run for 2 times, 4 years is, and then we review your performance after 4 years. And then, and if such a process that is supposed to help us review your performance, hire or fire you, or tell you to continue or discontinue you, if those processes are not well put together, if those processes are not process that gives the citizen the power to decide on that, that's no longer an election. So it means that there's really no need for us to come together to have an election. So you can as well say, why not pass the law so that you just do 8 years and move? Because from the rhetorics, the stories, the Electoral Act, Section 60, the new Electoral Act, Section 63, where they talked about from EC8A and transmitting of results and all of them. According to the electoral officer, Guinea, who has served in INEC, the other day on Arise TV, where he was talking about, he said a report has been sent both to INEC. INEC has the reports, and also the House of our House of Assembly has this report that I think is about 96 to 97% of the total areas of Nigeria can be covered by, you can do transmission.
Yeah.
You don't need a 3G. At least a 2G can download the very small documents and all of them. So the 3% can be focal areas if you're a project manager. So you now know that you now streamline your solution based on those three areas. So we cannot have that you're making a holistic law, you're addressing you're making an entire room just for a 3% according to the statistics of their research.
Yeah.
Which I think at the last time of that research, I think a lot of things should have been improved right now coming to the whole internet access. A lot people in villages are able to access Facebook, WhatsApp, and a lot of platforms like that. Not even talking about now where the MTN fiber and all of these resources that Nigeria also last invested a lot in telecommunication infrastructure. Yeah. So I think so why we invest in telecom infrastructure where we know that we'll still come back to do that. But as somebody who has really experienced to the political scene, political climb, I like to say that transmission of results won't only solve our problem. Nigeria as a country, transmission, like instantly transmission of result will not solve our problem, because one of the things we've also look at is where political agents of parties are being bought, are being coerced. Yeah. So after elections have been counted, sometimes you use Togri and all of them. So at the end of the day, it still boils down to the fact that from EC 8A would have been filled with the accurate data, and then people will be coerced. So like they'll scare them away using a lot of violence and all of them. So people will not be there when the elections are counted. The agent is being forced to sign at the end of the day, and the same results will be uploaded. So that's electronically transferred, but still malpractice involved.
Okay, thank you. Let's take it step by step.
All right.
From what you started with, you made mention of election is the process of hiring and firing officers that will manage our affairs as a nation or state. Okay. Now, this is an apology to our ladies, our feminine folks out there. He said he was making mention of is. So it did not create room for the feminine folks to be considered in this power uptake. So we're very sorry, feminine folks out there. We are observing gender equality as we always pride with. Now, he has made mention of the fact that election is hiring and firing. And I was taught a long time ago before I started business that you should not hire who you cannot fire. So does that mean that before we consider, because you said electronic transmission of results is not the only solution to Nigerian political problem, electionary problem. Yeah. So it means that we still have to go back to the candidacy, the personality of the candidate that we are bringing out. Yep. Because they told me, don't hire who you cannot fire. And we are hiring a manager to manage our nation or states. So if we now have somebody who want to give this position, want to hire, if this person is bigger than us, is more authoritative than us, can control us, should we put such person in power? Should we hire such persons? Or we should look out for those persons that we can, as citizens, not as one citizen, as citizens, we can tell the person, we don't like what you are doing. If you don't work on your ways, we can bring you out of this office. Should we look at that aspect, or anything can go? It can go.
So sometimes you can't really tell power corrupts. So sometimes you can't really say that from the first base. We've had politicians who the process of trying to seek for these elections. They go to the market, they do a lot of things, they show a lot of stunts and all of them. You see them coming out to kneel before you, bow before you.
Your corn.
Yeah, it's like you see them in a lot of places. You see them. Okay, I think like the last elections that happened in 2023, you had a candidate for a state who went as far as he was doing ushering in church. Not he went to church and was ushering people, shaking people. That's something he's never done before. That's something. There are some people who actually, like I can say, governor of Delta State has been. That's when you go to the Winners Chapel in Delta State. That's what he does normally. No, that's not the part I'm trying to. But there are people at the wake of the election. See them. They went to different churches, doing ushering members in church and all of them. They were the ones sharing gifts and all of them. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about genuineness. It's about yourself, your self-respect. So we should be able to hire people we can fire. So it has to come with having systems, structures that enable us. And the election system is one that is supposed to enable us hire and fire. Yeah. You shouldn't be more than a system that you got involved in. So a system should be created. We should have a system that checkmates all of these things. So you cannot be higher than the system that you're operating on. So the system should be bigger than us. So that's what robust democracy do. They have systems that are set in place that whatever it is, whatever you think you are, your powers and all of them, the system curtails it. So I think it's a better way of holding it, because we can't really trust people absolutely with power and say, oh, they might not turn to this. No, because absolute power corrupt. Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much for that. Now, let's quickly, because of time constraint, let's quickly delve into the resource of this conversation today. And this is a new week. Yeah. So we want people to have this information to go about their week, because one of the issues that Nigerians are facing is lack of education. not formal education or academic education. I mean, lack of awareness. You will do a statistics, go about marketplaces, not just marketplaces. You can say those persons that are there are the talakawas. Let's go around the areas where you think you can find average intellectuals. You will still find out that many of them are not even aware that anything of such happened in Nigeria. They are not even aware. But if there is a program that is to glorify a kind of religious activity, the awareness is all over. In fact, you'll find political means where they will also use to bring out this information. But how can we create, you talked about structure just now, system. How can we create a very strong system that is bigger than us, that creates the room for people to hear whenever any of such important information is available to be heard?
So I like to say that every country that is doing so well it's just that we are a country that's been so old and we've not really made progress. Instead of making progress, we've been retrogressing. So how would you say our throwback is better than our future? So it's quite bad for our country, Nigeria. How will you keep saying, oh, it's just like the analogy in the Bible where people were saying that the children of Israel say they want to go back to Egypt through their former slave master because they felt like that was better. So we, as Nigerians, instead of us to be making progress going forward, we are looking at our behind it, like our throwback being better than our future. So what I'm trying to say this is that beyond the whole religious creating awareness, and there's something we've not done. Ownership of our country, patriotism. That's one thing that lacks in a lot of us as Nigerians. Ownership of our country, realizing that the leadership is not just for a certain people, it's for all of us. And whatever thing happen in leadership, it affects every one of us. It affects every one of us. So it's going to be a collective decision that the woman somewhere in the market, the man somewhere in the construction site, everybody becomes politically involved, politically oriented. Understand that his future or the future of his kids are at stake if he does not take the right measures. The right measures. So we need to understand that it's our destiny we are fighting for. Our silence, it's consent. When we say silence, it's consent. He said, we can't keep doing it the same way and expect a different results. So if our parents who became silent and we have our country like this, in our generation, the only thing they can help us to do is that, oh, we've made mistakes. How do you need to come together. These are our mistakes. They need to own up to their mistakes and see how there can be a lot of reorientation. And this is not just to people who are politically sensitive or people who are politically minded. I'm saying that our religious organizations, they need to own up. Our curriculum need to look at patriotism. All of these things, people need to get more involved in getting the system because the power of the people is greater than the people in power.
Yeah.
You understand? So we need to understand that it's our collective effort can do a lot of things. We've seen where a mass movement of people would decide to say no to this, enough is enough, or these malpractice, enough is enough to this poor governance, and a lot of things changes. So we've seen it happen in a lot of countries, and we need to wake up and get politically oriented. Know that we can only trust people with power who have compassion, who have competence, and who have character. So because we have a lot of people who have competence but they lack character. We have people who have charisma, they lack competence and they lack character. So we need to go back to look at people who are compassionate, people who have character, people who have competence, and people who are ready to look at humanity first, like you said initially. So thank you. That's going to help us do a lot of reorientation among us.
Thank you. Please, this is a call to action, not just action to take physical steps. We need action to take mental steps towards understanding what happens in your society, in your environment. It is important because it is knowledge. They say knowledge is power. It does not give you physical power to throw a fight with somebody box. It gives you mental power to move with confidence and attack ideas and dreams with absolute trust that it's going to turn out right. Because our persons in power, they owe us the responsibility to serve us in entirety. So if we don't call them to book, we'll be cheating ourselves. And there is no way we can grow a nation when those who have given the power to lead us to grow the nation are not doing what is expected of them. All right. So in the resource of today's discussion, the electronic transmission of results, this has been a conversation for years. And it happens that every election cycle, there are different, if not legislative amendments, there are verbal amendments. There are always conversations around things when election is coming up. Now, we understand very well that this amendment that was effected in the Constitution, the Electoral Act, was actually effected solely for the 2027 election. I don't know what the plans are. I don't know what the INEC's intentions are. But this thing has been done, and we know very well that the 2027 election is what is in focus. We are also discussing in focus of 2027 election. From EC8A, as we know, election operations will always be I've engaged in several elections, maybe not so many, I'm not so old, but from ECHA, we manually fill this form. When we manually fill them, what we saw as an electronic transmission of results was now snap the form after filling, upload it to a portal, it will now load this network. Then what is electronic transmission of results then? Because what I would expect an electronic transmission of result to look like or sound like or appear like is a technological infrastructure whereby as one is voting, it is entering the database. As one is voting, it is entering the database. And I believe it is even cheaper to set such infrastructure up than even printing thousands of papers to call them from ECHA. We can have from ECHA, whereby there's a tab for a particular center or a particular unit. You just put your vote or press and it just goes to the portal. We see this as simple as Instagram pool. Somebody just selects, okay, this one, and you just start counting, start seeing it live. I believe it's cheaper to set up such infrastructure than even filling form, snapping, because even if we're going to do electronic transmission of results, you can still fill that form, you can still do your manipulation there and snap what you have manipulated and upload it. How can we break this barrier? Because electronic transmission of results in its definition is not holistic enough to cover up for electionary intention to do malpractice. How can we now really make this electronic transmission of results more defined that it can block loopholes in election? Let's just look at it briefly before we round up.
So I think the country as this, we have international passport, we have NIN, we have various means of identification, voters card. These are like a lot of duplications, and it's not helping our efficiency as a country. So the electronic transmission of results that we're supposed to have is not it's sort of like I said, is that going to help? Maybe yes, temporarily. The electronic from ECHA finish, people feel, because it's humans that write on it. And so we need to find a way of reducing the interference of people making judgment on it. Because when you go to INEC Ref portal, you see a lot of TPEX results. And I'm wondering how a country such as this, the judiciary, the electoral people, accepting such results. As if the person who wrote that result, as if the person was half asleep to make those kind of mistakes. So you see results, TPEX, and people are using it to call for an outright winner or something. So it's a slap to our intelligence as Nigerians that the court or INEC accepts such results, because it boils down to the highest bidder takes it all. So we need to move from. So I heard when Elon Musk was even making comment at regarding electronic, he does not support it because of interference, cyber security concerns and all of them. So there are a lot of platforms we can come up as Nigerians. We can, as a country who wants to practice democracy. First, we need to remove the involvement of. We need to go back to the Electoral Act and make it more strong. So that's why I come back to our institutions, our system, because maybe the government of the day, you're seeing someone who is buying vote at the polling unit. Oh, he or she has shown you a card or something. You can't arrest such a person because it's Oga that sends the person, Oga that gives you a job, Oga that will promote it tomorrow. So there's no, our structures are not our systems are not well structured. Do you understand? You see, we have a group of Nigerian agency who comes to with a red jacket every time to electoral part, and we don't see people being persecuted at the end of the day, taken to court. I've not heard one. People persecuted, taken to court at the end of the day, and then serving life, maybe sentences on such crime when buying results and all of them. So I think we can use our means of identification. At least that's where we can gain confidence back. People can use their means of identification, go on such platforms and vote, and it's reflecting immediately. There's nothing wrong with that. So you go with your name, your voter's card, your number, you just input it there, you vote, and it's uploading immediately. So everybody's seeing real time. That's real time. That's not the from ECHA. The from ECHA. Will it help the electronic this very method? Yes, and to a certain extent. But does it have demerit? Yes. So, but when we have voter's card, real check, you're a Nigerian citizen, you have the cards, means of identifications, and all of them for Nigerians. So that's another process where we need to be. Our data in this country is still very bad.
Yeah, very
bad. When was the last time we did census? So we just assume that our class A, Nigeria is 237 million people. So, but 2006, how many years? But I was taught when I was in primary school that census happens every 10 years. So what happens in 2016? What happens in 2026? So we are missing all the timelines to actually get what's our real population. I think it's important that we remove. Yes, can we use this for 2027? Yes, but we need to also be true to ourselves. I tell people that for every one of us who is so young, who is not interested in a very free and fair process of electoral system, they are making disadvantage to ourselves. I'll make mention of the likes of the former Attorney General of the Federation, who's currently in the custody and moving from one court to another. Although, yes, some of the allegations on him, like I said, the allegations on him may be proven true at the end of the day in the court. We see some of the high-handedness in government when they're in charge and all of them. But because he failed to set a system that was independent from the executive, the same system now cannot protect him. If he had set a system that was able to be independent from the government and not coerce, you see how maybe if whatever allegations are on him right now, if they were just political hunting, such a system would have been powerful enough to protect him. But when you stay at the top and you feel like it's all good, whatever you like, you do, you get back to the point where you need the same system to protect you. And a lot of times, the house you did not build in the dry season cannot cover you in the rainy season. So it's simple. So we need to understand all of these things, that as young people, we need to enforce a transparent, free, and credible elections. Because you won't always have your godfather supports you or your leader or whatever thing to those elections. You won't always have those people who will do the dirty job for you. So when we have a free and fair, transparent and credible polls, it gives an opportunity for a son of nobody to become somebody. And people believe in your vision and support you, and you're going to win. So it's important that we go back to checking the electronic transmission of result and seeing that alone it can cope to a very large extent, but it cannot give us a very small, because we've seen a lot of that too, where the results are uploaded at TPEX. I saw pictures of goats, animals on the IRF. So how do you call for that? So what if I tried to screenshot and in the process of trying to screenshot, so I voted sometimes last in Asaba, and I saw the COP member was presiding over our, no, sorry about that for COP member, but one of them was presiding over the election. We finish voting and say, oh, they cannot snap, the card reader is low. So let's try to say, no, they are calling her and all of them. The next thing you see, security men came, packed everything and say it was late, they need to go and move. No, I can't say that. So you get, so they moved, they left with everything, and it was not snap because we didn't take the picture. So those are other challenges too that can be faced. These are other challenges. It's not just about so they went back to wherever it is. If they decide to manipulate the very results of the polling unit, you can only keep shouting. Do you understand? The results have been called, you keep going for court, and it's a lot of stressful process. And imagine where you have your opponent stronghold and you have people come to disperse them from voting. That's another very big issue too. So it's a lot of processes. We need to do a self-retrospection of ourselves as citizens, as leaders too, of Nigeria, and see that if we have a process, a free and fair, transparent process, it's not just going to benefit us. It's going to benefit even the people who are not strong. But both the people who are strong enough and people who are weak, is going to help the people to drive that vision and achieve their goal when it comes to leadership.
All right, thank you so much, E.T. Ian, for joining us to x-ray this issue in this depth. And our subscribers, our viewers out there, we take this opportunity to encourage you to not just sit and fold your hands. Engage in discussions, engage in conversations, also engage in knowledge acquisition that will help you to be aware of what happens in your society, because that is the foundation of being a healthy citizen. Forget about every aspect. To be healthy, you need to be aware, first of all, of what is happening in your body system. So our political system, our state system, you need to be aware as well. So E.T. Ian, we have said a lot about these electionary processes and the intricacies of every attempt that both INEC and every electionary officer will carry out. So we enjoin you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you will be up to date on the discussions we're going to be having here, so as to keep you aware of what happens in our society. And E.T. Ian, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. And I hope we get the opportunity to discuss this again on a better platform. I believe before 2027 election approaches, I will call you again so we can talk about the way forward. I haven't understood that this is where we are now. So the way forward, we're going to discuss it some other time. I really appreciate your presence.
Thank you so much.
Again, God bless you, the viewers. I'm very sure they are happy to hear from you.
Thank you so much.
And those behind the camera, shout out to you all. And our viewers at home, God bless you. I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much.